I have got several projects I'm working on right now. One of them is this beautiful Indian woman. It's kind of a graphic of her. I got the graphic by taking a very small picture from an encyclopedia, putting it on a copier and enlarging it and then enlarging the enlargement until it started to lose some definition and made this beautiful graphic. And I'm going to paint her one day and put these beautiful indigo colored clothes on her, and I'm really anxious to do that picture. I've started my tracing here, and I'll share this with you when I do it. Another one I've got started is a chair I have in the corner of my living room, and here's the picture I took. Took the picture on a digital camera and put it on my computer and then made it the size I wanted. And here's my tracing of it. And I'm going to paint that and then hang it over the chair, and I'll share that with you when I do it. But what I want to do today is this beautiful picture of a quaint little chapel on the island of Aruba. It's just a little sandstone color with a red roof and then the yellow pews on the outside. There's the beautiful Caribbean blue sky, and there's the sand. And I can barely tell in the distance some real rocky terrain right on the shoreline. I see that the cactus grows straight with in clumps, and I have some other pictures here. Let's see, here's one. The road going up to the chapel is lined with white crosses, and here I get a better picture of the way the cactus grow. And I see them in clumps and going straight up. I see a little bit of tumbleweed-looking terrain here. And on each cross is the Lord's Prayer. And I was inspired to just see what kind of a nice painting I could make with that. And I immediately thought of some watercolor paper that a friend gave to me that is this size. And this size paper really inspires me, because it is not your usual shape and size. I don't know the weight of it or whether it's hot press or cold press. It's just very old. It's starting to yellow around the edges, but I love the texture of it and how it interacts with the water and the paint. But this is how I decided to try to do this picture now. I don't know if this picture is going to turn out or not, if it's going to look like anything, but make or break, I'm going to take you on this journey with me, and we're going to find out. First of all, I decided to trace the church exactly the size of the photograph. It'd be much easier to do if I made it larger, but because of the size of the paper and because of the look I want, I just traced exactly the size that the church is. When I got into tracing the pews, it was so detailed I almost decided not to do it. And then I remembered this is not an architectural rendering. This is going to be a watercolor, and it's going to be my impression of this picture. So I thought all I need to do is suggest those pews. And when I get all of this painted and all these yellow pews here, I think it's going to have exactly the look I want. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just put my wash down. And before I start, I always like to have several water jars or glasses of water, so if I'm really going well, I don't have to stop and empty my water and get a clean one. And I like to have lots of paper towel. Okay, now as I look at this is what, and then looking back at my photographs, this is what I think I want to do first. I'm going to do a wash of just the sky and the water line, and then I'm going to put my blue in. I think I'm going to use Prussian blue. And I noticed in this picture how it looks like the sky and the sky is all blue and all the clouds are flowing or just pointing towards the church, so that you have this pretty white area in here. And that's the way I'm going to do my sky. Leave some white all around the church, which kind of frames it in. I notice the water is darker than the sky, and so that's how I'm going to do it. And then when that dries, I'll put a wash down here, and I'm going to put a yellow ochre, a sand color, over all of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my paper wet. And I've already sprayed my paint to soften it up. I like to use this hairspray bottle because it just works best for me. I've got some bottles that I bought from the store, but they make so much paint, so much water, and such a heavy spray that just happens to work best. So first of all, I'm just going to put a wash on the sky. I'm going to cover the. Sometimes I leave white spaces where I don't want the paint to go, but this time on this area I want that whole back blue, the whole upper part blue. Now, one of the rules of watercolor is to tape your paper down, sometimes wet it and let it dry and stretch it, but one of the best things I found out was that sometimes the rules don't work for me, so I have to go by my own rules. To tape it down constricts me too much. I like to take my paper and turn it and let the paint flow and the water flow. So what I'll do in a case like that is just set some things on it to keep it from getting too bowed up on me. Now that's nice and wet, and I don't want the blue to get on the church. So if it does get just a little bit wet, I just blot it off here with some paper towel. And while it's still wet, I want to take a nice fat soft brush, and I'm going to use some Prussian blue, thin it down a little bit, to make a nice wash. Still going to need more than that. Okay, and then I'm going to start brushing this on. You have to work kind of fast because it's going to set pretty quick. And remember, I'm going right over the cactus. That's not a problem. But remember, I'm going to get lighter as I get close to the church. And then I'm just going to kind of let this just almost have no color at all, and go back a little darker behind the church. Do want a little bit at the top here. Suggest some clouds. Now to get an even better look, I'm going to take this and just hold it upside down and watch that paint run down, and it's all running down towards the church. And I'm going to coax it here just a little bit. Kind of finish it off there. Okay, I like that. Okay, now I'm going to wet the sand part. Before I do that, there's a couple of things I want to do. First of all, I got it on the road here. I don't want the road wet because I don't want the yellow to get onto the road, so I'm going to just blot that. Also, I don't want this cactus to have too much blue in it, so I'm going to wet it and then just take some paper towel and with the tip of it just get a little bit of that blue out. There's one more thing I want to do. I don't really like that plain blue. I want some suggestions of clouds in here. So I'm going to take just some water, get some of that blue out, make sort of a cloud look. And can you see how that water is moving? So I can make that water go any direction I want to, and I want it to go towards the church. So I'm going to hold it up, shake it out a little bit. You see how the paper is starting to dry here as the paint slows down? If I don't want it to stop there, I can just coax it with a little bit of spray. Beautiful clouds. Okay, Now, when you get it like you want it, then you lay it down and let it dry flat. Okay, now we're going to go to the sand color. I want to be sure and use water that doesn't have some blue in it, and that's okay. And I'm just gonna wait and do the water later after the sky dries. But what I want to do first of all is blot the water to kind of coax it to dry, so I won't have to wait so long. And I'm just blotting it all along the horizon here. Okay, now we're going to get the sand in. I'm just going to do a quick wet wash. Go right over the pews, that won't hurt. I'm going to go right over the cactus in this big hill here. I'm going to skip the road. Don't want that too yellow. Come right along here. Okay. And then my yellow ochre, which I love so much. Just use it as a wash for almost everything. I want a real wet wash. Okay, just to get some color in here. And I'll come over it when it dries with different colors and different shades. And go right over the pews. I'm getting it darker in some places than others, too. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm going to let that dry. I might put a dryer on it to help it along. Now, first what I'll do, let me show you how I do this. As you can see the puddles, I'll just let those puddles soak right up into this paper towel. And it won't take so long to dry. Okay. And then I'm going to come back and go to my next step. Okay, I went on and put some yellow ochre here in the front too, and it was a little heavy, and I blotted it off with paper towel, which gave it some texture. Now I'm still going to go over that with green, but some of that yellow ochre is going to come through. So what my next step is going to be, and I've got my photographs up here where I can look at them for reference. They're a little bit easier to get to. I'm going to do my water after it dries good. Maybe let it dry overnight. And if you'll remember, when I was doing the sky, I had some specks of pigment, and when that dries, that'll just flake right off. And some of it just fell off without even having to do that. Okay. I think first of all, I'm going to put my road in. I want the road to be, the pictures are showing a sort of a taupe colored clay. I'm not sure I'm going to do it the same color as the picture is, but I'm going to take a flat brush here, and I'm going to make one of my favorite browns, and that's with phthalo blue. Oh, that's not phthalo blue. That is. Okay. And some burnt sienna, and add the blue until I get just a beautiful, rich brown. So much prettier than anything I can get out of a tube, and you can almost get to black with those two colors. That's phthalo blue and burnt sienna or burnt umber, either one. Okay, now I want to thin it down some. Now this time my paper is dry, and I'm going to show the road very narrow back here. And just really want more blue in that. That's good. And I want to get this in before it dries, so very quickly I want to come back and wash it onto the whole road. And I've got it darker in the distance here. And this is gonna kind of skip the cross as much as I can, even though I'll probably come back with a white paint to do that. The cross is going to reflect all the colors around it anyway, even though it's white, so it won't hurt if I get a little color on it. Okay, now I'm just going to wash this on out. And then it sort of disappears behind that hill there. Now I do want that not quite so dark, so I'm just going to blot a little bit and also give it some texture and blot some of that out too. Now here's what I've got. You can see how the paper and the watercolor is giving you depth, and I don't think it would hurt even to blot it a little bit more here. Okay? And then take my brush and smooth it. Well, it doesn't even need it. Okay, now I'm going to, according to the picture, the green in the snapshots, of course, snapshot colors are not always true, so you just have to sometimes use your imagination or your memory. The green in the snapshots looks like a very rugged, dark green with a lot of brown in it, so that's the color that I'm going to go with. First of all, I see something I need to do here, and that's get some of this brown out of the cactus. So I will wet it real good, and then come back and blot it with the edge of the paper towel, and that'll take care of that. And I have to do that before it dries, so that got the paint off of the cactus there. Okay, let's get some paint on this hill here. First of all, I'll wet it good, and we're going to go, see, that hill comes all the way up here. We're going to go right over the cactus and then wipe it out before it dries. So the first thing I want to do is wet this whole area real good. And then I'm going to take this flat brush again. I'm going to go to some green. And really, I think I'm going to put some blue in that green and then some of this brown with it. And then add some sap green to it. And that's a pretty much of a green with some brown in it. So I'm going to start with that and see if I like that. I'm just going to dab it and pat it on to get the look of terrain and grass and all kinds of different things that might be growing there. And since this is at a distance, we can just suggest it. Try to stay away from the cactus a little bit and get some more paint made. And you want to have several different colors. You don't want this to be just one wash that's all the same color. Give it a much more interesting look and a much more realistic look too. Okay, and here's how that first layer looks. Remember, it's going to dry about 3 shades lighter too. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to do this next level. I'm going to put more green in it. And I'm going to do that by adding green and some blue to this brown mixture that I mixed up. I'm just going to pat that on. You can see it's a different color and it's quite a bit darker. Just get some color in there. And then I have one more level here, and I'm just going to make that pretty much brown. Go right over the cactus on that one. And real quick, I want to get some of that color out of the cactus, although not all of it, because that's going to really look good when I get them painted. Okay? And then I will go and do the same technique on this hill right here. But first of all, what I want to do is get some color on the church and on the pews. And so that won't dry too buckled up. I'm going to sit something on it kind of heavy. Well, I'll tell you what, let's put something a little bit lower level. Okay, I went on and put this, the green on this hill. We had just done that, and then I went on and did that, and it's starting to dry, and I've got some texture in it. And sometimes I'll put some tape underneath it on the table to help hold it down for a few minutes until it dries. The next thing I'm going to do is get some color in this area. I'm going to put some sand color on the sandstone, some red on the roof, get my yellow pews in, and then come back and get my water in a darker blue, and I'll probably let it sit overnight and just see how it looks in the morning before I do any more. But let's go ahead and get some color on the church. I'm going to use this little round sable here and use a little lighter shade of the ochre and put some yellow in it. I want it to be pretty pale, so I'm going to thin it down real good. And my church is dry right now, but I'm going to use a real wet wash, which is going to, so it won't be quite as heavy. The paint won't be as heavy as if I didn't put as much water in the paint. And remember, that's going to dry even lighter, but I think still I'm going to blot it just a little bit. Then we'll get some red on the roof. For the red, I'm going to use alizarin crimson. I'm going to mix a little bit of burnt sienna in it. Put some more of an orange than a red. And I'm going to blot it a little bit because I don't want it too dark. I'm going to be coming back and putting shadows and other colors in it. But right now I just want to get it all blocked in. And then I can later look at it, like overnight or a few days from now, and then I can tell what improvements I need to make or what I might need to do different. And I'll tell you something really, really helps is take it and hold it up to a mirror, and if there's any kind of problem with it at all, it'll be magnified in the mirror, and it'll really help you to straighten out any problems. Okay, I think I'm just going to leave that on the roof, just that color. And get my brush really, really clean so there's no red in it, and come back with some pretty bright yellow on the roof. This is still just a little bit damp, so I don't want to lean on it. But on these pews, right now all I'm going to do is get some yellow on them. But how I'm going to make them look like they're pews, I'll come back with shadows and do it all with lights and darks, and you'll be surprised how these pews will take form when we do that. But right now we're just getting a base coat down. And remember that we don't want this to look necessarily like a photograph or like the photograph. We just want it to be our impression of this whole scene here. Okay, one more step before I put it away and let it dry is to wet the water. And on this one, I'm going to be really careful and get right on the horizon, as straight a line as you can get with the water. Another real good way to do this is get some artist tape and tape your horizon and paint right over it. This works better for me, and I don't know why, except that it's just faster, and I don't have time to stop and tape it, and so I would rather do it like this. But also, it depends on the weight of your paper. If your paper's really heavy, it'll take the tape real well, and I'm not sure this paper would take it very well. Okay, now I'm going to get a very dark blue, and I'm going to use the phthalo. Use phthalo for almost everything. I'm going to mix some ultramarine blue in it, but it's got to have some green in it to look like the Caribbean. And I'm going to come along and just draw that line there. It's okay if it's uneven at the bottom, but right at the top, you want to really get that horizon straight. Now you can go back and fix it if it doesn't turn out right the first time. I will tell you this though, blue is one of the hardest colors to get out of the paper if you have to try to take it out. Blue stays, the dye in the blue is pretty permanent, but it can be done. You can always make changes. And okay, just about got it. And I'm going to go back and I'm trying to keep it as dark, a little darker than the sky. And we're going to go back and get it out of the cactus there in just a minute. Okay, and here's what we've got done. We've got all our color blocked in. Here's the painting and here's the picture. And now what I'll do is let it set for a few days and look at it and decide what changes I want to make. I can come back with a fine line brush and straighten up the horizon. I might take a little color out here by wetting it and blotting it until I get a little bit of the color out. But my next step is going to be to put this hill in and then detail it out, and I'll share it with you when I get it finished. Okay, here we have our finished painting, and when I left it, I was going to block in the hill and block some of this in and then paint my cactus and get some red and yellow on the chapel. And for beginning watercolor, I like to suggest a very simple 4-point system, which is just to get your wash in and then block in your color and then detail it. And that's when you need to set it aside and look at it and see what you want to do to improve it. See what you might want to push back or what you might want to bring to the focus point. Just take your time and look at it and then start to detail it out. I did notice that on the rocks in the picture, I took a lot of color out of them because the sun hits them so hard they're almost pure white. Also, if you notice, I didn't use the pictures exactly, but I just took it and rearranged it all just to get the whole look of the chapel sitting against the water and then the crosses as you come down the road. I tried to not use too much cactus and terrain. I just wanted to get the look of it. Also, I discovered that the paper was quite rough, so it gave me a little bit of a rough look, which I liked and which worked for me. And I decided to leave my horizon just a little bit rough like it is rather than take a ruler and try to refine it because it just worked with the whole picture. And also after I got the crosses in, I went back with some of the background colors and used that for shadow instead of just using a black or a gray. On the cactus, I took water and took a little bit of paint out here and then added some yellow. And also took some very, very dark phthalo green and phthalo blue and burnt sienna and burnt umber, and made some dark foliage here to push it back a little bit. I hope that you'll try watercolor and just keep it simple and take your time and don't get discouraged. And we'll share another one with you soon. And thanks for watching.